Good morning, guys. It is 11:09 a.m., March 11th, 2024. I hope everybody is doing well. Today, what we're going to do is go through the principles of giving a recap report. Recap reports are very important because they highlight the actual performance of your marketing, usually over a longer period of time. The shortest recap reports are typically a month. Other ones can last a quarter or even a year. And they're pretty important because that is the tangible deliverables that you give as a marketing, especially a digital marketing expert. What are the numbers? What are the clicks? What's the revenue? What's the leads? So on and so forth. So in this video, I'm going to go over exactly how I give my recap reports. And the nice thing is it'll be able to translate towards your recap reports as well, because the things I talk about here will be report agnostic, if I may, meaning it doesn't matter if your report looks exactly like mine. Obviously, in your own situation, it may not. But this is going to be more of the principles on how to give a recap report, meaning I see tons of people that give marketing analysis and reports where they just read off the screen and don't give any interpretation. And there's really no clear cut agenda and order. This video is not going to be that. It's going to be more in depth. And I'm going to go through the basics and the principles of giving recap reports so your key stakeholders stay engaged. They stay, faithful to what you're saying, and you can remain integral to their piece of business. I'll also give examples on how to reframe certain aspects as positives rather than negatives, even if they do highlight the negative performance, because that's something that I find that is most notable and helps a lot. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. So let's do it. All right. So what I'm in right now is a Google Data Studio report. Well, formerly Google Data Studio, now called Looker Studio, because Google likes to change all of their nomenclature and everything. But right now, I'm going to go through a report, and it's about 8 pages. And I've custom designed this report for this specific client in question. This is an e-commerce client. And this report showcases a lot about revenue and orders, so on and so forth. Now, how I've organized this report is, well, the primary service in question is Google Ads. And how I usually do reports is I'm going to start with the most important high impact items first. And that is across any report that I give. And with this, the primary service that I do for this client is Google Ads. So obviously, I'm going to start with Google Ads. Now, the reason I do this is because most marketing reports are dry, dull, and just boring and packed full of useless information. I've been guilty myself of giving these types of reports. Now, I don't necessarily want to do that in this instance. The reason I start with this is because this is the executive summary table. I've custom designed it. My team and I have custom designed it to showcase the most important key performance indicators, or KPIs, for the business. And this is really to say, okay, if the key stakeholders, owners, general managers, what have you, if they have a limited amount of time to go through your analysis and go through your report, what information can you give them that's simple, easy, and digestible, that within 30 seconds or less, they know, oh, okay, this is what David did, or this is what your name, fill in the name, did in this time period, right? And it all comes down to measuring the most important things and focusing on the most important things. So in this example, we have 5 different metrics that we look at. First one being return on ad spend, or ROAS. Second one being cost. Third being revenue. And really, these are all intertwined, right? This is just a ratio of these two. And then we have conversions and cost per conversion. So again, actionable item, and then a cost per conversion or a cost per acquisition. This is it. This is the most important thing at the end of the day? What did we do and how did we look, right? So this table pretty much sums it all. So let's read it. I start trying to get my face out of the way. There we go. I start from left to right typically. And if you notice, I love tables because they just make a lot of sense. And I don't want to put too much information on the executive summary slide. I think this is actually a bit much, but all these metrics are pretty important to know. So usually I like to go with 2 or 3, but in this case we have 5, which is fine. So I have 2 rows here, 5 columns, 2 rows. We have a year over year row to see how we're pacing year over year, and then a month over month. So see how we're pacing month over month. And that way we could see the most important metrics, both how we're pacing from last year and last month, to benchmark ourselves. Did we improve? Did we not improve? So on and so forth. So what this shows is we had a 433% return on ad spend. My talk track here is 433%. That means for every $1 that we invest in marketing, we're getting $4.33 approximately back in revenue. It is good for this client. Next column here, and I'll notice too, this is up about 17%. Okay, that's good. Year over year, that's good. Our cost was $38,000. That was down about 2.4%. You can make the argument that costs being down year over year is a good thing. It just depends on what the client is trying to do. If they have a set budget and you were able to get more results for less money, well then great. That's always a good thing. But in this instance, it's important that the client wants to scale. So we don't necessarily want to spend the same or less money. So again, knowing these comparisons and how they fit into the client's goals is really, really important. Then we go to conversion value, which in terms is revenue. We show $167,000 generated. That's about a 15% increase. That's good. Conversions are up as well, about 21%. That's good too. So this is exclusively the total number of purchases. And then the cost per conversion is the cost of how much it took to get a purchase. Pretty simple. Just knowing the architecture of the account and nomenclature, instead of just including total number of purchases in here, maybe it's relevant to include add to carts and begin checkouts. But again, this is the executive summary. So we don't necessarily need to include that. That can be on a later slide because those are still technically conversions and those are still important, but they're not the most important. The most important is the number of purchases. So that is the overall statistics. Let me put my face back here. So then I have the month over month, right? And all the numbers, as you can see, are the same, but the percentages are different. So we can see how we're pacing. And this really goes to how the client's performance is month over month or seasonal. Is this business seasonal? Do the certain months of the year actually play into the performance of the actual business? Is there cyclical things that we need to be aware of? So on and so forth. So what can I see? So rather than just reading numbers, what do I see that is actionable, right? And really, there's nothing that we can tell that's actionable just from the numbers, but the comparisons are where the actual analysis comes from. So what I'll do is look for some of the biggest percentage, either up or down, to see, okay, what does that mean and how can we improve? And that's your step-by-step guide. And usually I like to look at, that's why I only like to look at the main KPIs first, so we can see, okay, which of these main KPIs show the biggest percent difference from their time comparisons, and what does that mean? So right off the bat, what do we see? We see ROAS increase 17%, almost 18% year over year. Well, that tells me it's good. Since cost stayed roughly about the same, we just got more revenue for the dollars. Great. We increased campaign efficiency. That's a great thing to know. We've also lowered our cost per conversion year over year. It took less money for us to get the same revenue and same purchases than it did. Well, it took the same amount of money to get more purchases, right? So our efficiency has gone up from last year. Great. One thing I noticed too is that, let's see what else I notice. This conversion value has also gone up month over month, which I love to see. Our overall conversions have gone up month to month. The main thing for this client, though, that I'm looking at for improvement is here. We decreased cost a little bit. The client wants to scale up. So even though we made our campaigns more efficient from last year, which is great, we need to pay attention to this for our key performance like increase, because that's going to tell us, okay, this is where we need to focus now. All this stuff is great. Our campaigns are efficient. Things are happening in the right way. But the objective of this client, that's why it's really important to know objectives and to know what they're trying to accomplish. They want to increase year over year. So we have to figure out how they can spend more with the same efficiency or a similar efficiency so they can scale up. So that's what I get from this overall marketing dashboard report so far. And this concludes the executive summary. So to recap, you're going to want to include the first page of your report, executive summary style. I wouldn't do any more than 5 metrics. 3 is probably the sweet spot. You do want to have comparisons, and I like to have them year over year and month over month, because in the retail businesses that I deal with, those are the most used. But again, whatever comparisons you think you use for your businesses, could be last quarter, last annual, who knows, even week over week in some cases, then you should use that. And then when you have those comparisons and those percentage differences, you want to look at the biggest percentage differences, both up and down. And that's where you focus on either big wins, like in this case, we increase campaign efficiency, or areas to improve. We need to up the budget in order to scale. So in the next couple videos, I'm going to go through some more layers of this report, give more examples of all the different slides. But one thing you'll notice is I start with the most important slide first, or the most important page. That's the overview, that's the executive summary, and basically give them the raw stuff of what's going on. Big picture first, and then you work your way down in importance always, because as you go on, you're going to lose attention. So hopefully that helps, and stay tuned for the next video.